All right, here it is, man. Oh my god, this place is huge.
Uh,
Oh my. Oh, this could
you
take.
got this one, right?
Yeah. Whoa, 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 whoa. Easy there, Haas. Okay. So, like, can I just speed this? Yeah.
Yeah, you can press the right mouse button and it holds it.
Oh yeah, that's nice. Um. Okay. So our first topic, dude. First thing down the docket here, we got the role of conspiracy theories in modern society, dude. Any conspiracy theories you talk about? You know what I mean? Just conspiracy theories in general, I think.
What? I don't know any conspiracy theories.
There's the we were talking about like what protagonists yesterday too. Talking
Yeah,
about what makes a good
we're talking about like
protagonist.
protagonists because you want to talk about like superpowers and stuff, and I was like, yeah, yeah, superpowers are great. And
Oh
I like
yeah.
I brought up like anime protagonists and stuff. Mostly that like I thought about like Attack on Titan because character I was like using is like a mixture between like Levi from Attack on Titan and Roy Mustang from Full Metal Alchemist. Just like that sort of like stoic military, but like really cool type of character. Uh, who just has like bit of integrity and just like supposed to be like kind of cool and likable, but also like oh yeah, this guy's kind of a douche, but not as big as a douche as it could be kind of person.
Right.
Uh, but it brought on like it made me think of Attack on Titan and how much that show could be like masterclass great, like I like amazing if it wasn't for the main character because Aaron Yeager is such a trash character to exist.
What for you makes a good main character? I mean, obviously, like there's really like not the cookie cutter stuff. Like for you, what do you find you often like
Yeah, well,
resonate with for the character?
like
Because like there's cookie cutter stuff, right? It's like we'll make sure that he can resonate with somebody as far as like feelings, or he has something that's going on in his life that people can
yeah,
relate to.
and like cookie cutter isn't like necessarily like bad at all. Like there's a reason people use like quote unquote like cookie cutter characters, especially a lot in anime. It happens a ton. Uh and it's not like makes it that doesn't make it bad or like a bad character. It makes it easier for the audience to relate to or just follow along because the character is usually like dense or like doesn't know a lot about the world or and it's just like a nice person. So they are always up to help people, making them get into more antics. So it's always like, yeah, uh, this person needs help. I'll go help them, whether I really want to or not. And that gets them into another set of adventures, or they meet other characters that way and stuff like that. And that's how they, make companions and acquaintances and stuff like that. Uh, but I don't know. A good character also depends on like the setting they're in. Like they have to fit their setting, and if they don't, then like they could be like the best, most well thought out main character in the world. But you know, if they don't fit the setting at all, then it doesn't matter. It's just not going to work.
Well, there's like a lot of isn't there like a lot of like animes, especially that take characters that aren't supposed to fit into the setting and put them in the setting, right? There's like a name for it, right? It's like very common.
Well, that's a bit different. So isekai is a word for like other world. That's the Japanese word for other world.
Okay.
And that's a whole genre of like yes you or the main character is in a world that they don't belong in or that they're not supposed to be in, and that is usually very literal. uh and there's a lot of like old like isekais, and it's a genre that was like also like is also really popular in the West. We just don't really ever have a name for it. We just call it like fantasy most of the time, like Wizard of Oz, The Labyrinth, uh, you know, movies like that where it's like, yeah, Dorothy wasn't from Oz. She, ended up there. Alice in Wonderland's the same way. It's like, yeah, she doesn't belong in Wonderland. That's a world she traveled to. That's an isekai. Uh, but yeah, it's very popular and it's gotten way popular in the last like I want to say like decade, but like even closer, like 5 or 6 years. It's gotten like really out of hand, and it just because it's easy to write for. So like you can make a very like basic fantasy world that's easy to understand with a very like cookie cutter protagonist that is easy to relate to or follow the story with, and then you can add just a bunch of other like fantasy tropes, usually relating to like uh, RPGs or like fantasy video games and stuff like that. So it just makes the very easy to write stories and like make characters for and make a setting for and everything. Uh, which I watch like a ton of them, and they're mostly like not like great or like I don't want to say not great. They're good enough to watch and be entertaining, but nothing that's like usually like fantastic or sets out or like is gonna you know change how like storytelling is done or anything, right? Uh, and because they use so many tropes, it's easy to jump into one from another if you're still like have that itch for that sort of thing. So it's like, yeah, I watched like all 12 episodes of that anime and I was wasn't quite fulfilled by it. I can just go watch the next isekai and it's like, oh, cool, basically the same characters and everything.
I do
Uh,
think that's my main issue with getting into anime, I guess. Like when I get like invested in a world or something, right? Like I
mhm.
mean, there's a few, right? Like there's a One Piece, is a huge one. There's a lot of long running anime out there. I'm sure there's way more than I know about even.
Yeah, there's a ton, and that's more of like an older thing too. There's not a ton of like new anime that run for a while, and it's just because like the like status quo for anime has changed a lot. Like I said, in like the last like decade, I want to say since like 2010, 2011 or so, just like the way anime has like started to do things has like changed a ton. Uh,
I just think whenever I like try to invest in a show or into anything that I'm gonna watch for a long time, I want it to be something that's gonna be around, right? Like especially for me, like as like somebody that just wants to, I don't know, like enjoy cinema or like enjoy like a real story. I think that like always is gonna be like multiple arcs, always multiple issues, always like kind of a lot of stuff to tie together, and then
um,
slowly tying it together over time, and like and having characters that don't change or like and stuff like that is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of weird, I guess, where it's like a lot of the
I
time like
mean, I
some animes I watch, like the characters don't seem to change all that much. Some of them they change so much during the whole time, like every episode they're changing a lot, like in Blue Lock every episode they're changing a lot. In
yeah,
Bungo Stray Dogs it's kind of similar, right? They're like uh, using the most of their abilities almost all of the time, like trying to figure out how to be better or do something differently. I mean, Bungo Stray Dogs is a little bit less, but it's up there, like some of the abilities and stuff that they're using. And like the main character, you know, being like a tiger or whatever, and using only half transforming to do certain things, or just like different ways that he's going to use the same ability is interesting.
yeah.
But, but when I watch anime, for the most part, like it's very like uh, what do they call them one more time? Say it one more time. I swear I'll get it eventually.
Which one? Isekai?
Yeah.
Because
Um.
you guys just recently watched like How Not to Summon a Demon Lord. That's an isekai. That
Right. Yeah. That's what I was just thinking about. I was like, okay, that's an isekai for sure.
mhm.
The like only issue that I have with that show is that there isn't much. There isn't the kind of development that I like. Like I like. I guess I like
To be fair,
interpersonal
that show was
development.
definitely not written for the development, if you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah, yeah, no, I get what you're saying. But like that was one of the things like that I liked about, I guess, High School DxD is like it is actually, there's a lot of development for what it is. You know what I mean? Like it's
mhm.
not like you're like all right, and then you have to get through some like really cringy bits, I guess, for sure. There's some just like cringy, stupid stuff in it. But there's like a lot of actual good story behind a lot of what they're doing in that show. You know? Like, and that
Yeah.
to me kind of like is what pops off for an anime is like, well, if you can get like a zero to hero type situation, which is
Yeah, and you're
a
like a
lot.
fan. Yeah, you're a fan of like zero to hero type stuff quite a bit. So it's hard to like get you to watch like shows that don't quite have that. Most shonens do, but like Jujutsu Kaisen, for example, isn't quite like a zero to hero. Like that character is like pretty extraordinary from the get go, and uh, like sure he's like he doesn't know how to do like the sorcery bit like with the curse energy quite as well as the other characters do, but he like slowly learns, but he has like an extraordinary like physical strength straight from the get-go, and that makes him like stand out and surprise people quite a bit.
Yeah,
uh
I just like character development, both physically, like both like in their abilities or whatever. Like, and this is like in multiple shows, like watching Barry, which is a Bill Hader like series on HBO
mhm,
Max, and like even that character is a like kind of a badass with like weaponry and stuff like that, and he's like pretty good. He was a hitman, you know, like that's kind of the entrance to him. But you see him like become kind of even more badass as a hitman, as a friend, as a person. Like you just see that character development all the way through. Like, cause I can
yeah,
watch I can definitely watch like a show that has zero like fighting scenes or something in it and still find it enjoyable. But there
yeah,
has to be some
and
type of development sometimes. It just doesn't feel real to me
uh
without it.
yeah, and you mentioned like anime like not being like an anime with like short episodes or like shorter seasons. There's not like a lot of development and stuff like that, but I think that happens a lot in like you know Western shows as well, especially nowadays when shows get canceled after one season and it just leaves the plot completely untangled. And it's like, yeah, at the very end of the season, that's where like the big plot hook happens. And then it's like, well, not getting a second season because people didn't watch it because there's no plot. And it's like, well, fuck, well, guess I'll never know how that story ends. That sucks. And it like
Hmm.
actually is a pretty good show, but too bad it got canceled. And it's like, oh, all right.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think that like whole that initial issue for
Uh,
me is like is strictly anime or strictly anything. I think that just happens. And then
and
you'll get like a lot of like even movies and stuff, right? Where it's like you get a movie and they'll rush the ending or force the ending kind of at towards the end. Like I liked
Yeah, or just like force plot points and stuff because like they had to edit out for space or time and stuff like that. And it's like, man, I really wish you didn't have to do that because things were going really cool and really well, and I think it could have been like better paced and stuff if you didn't have to
yeah, I can think of
ruin it.
a lot of movies that just feel like they're forcing something to happen because it's scripted to happen and they don't like the director or whoever like whoever's in charge of like both editing and directing and like keeping everything together. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, like I think
Yeah,
a director has so many things that they have to get done. The writer has so much they have to do. It's a big process for sure. But like a lot of the stuff we see in like current cinema from like Western culture is very like almost it's too cookie cutter esque. Like there's not very much stuff that's very different. Like a comedy is almost always the same kind of beats, kind of same
and I
tones. Like
and I
it
think
gets harder
that
to watch that stuff
I
a
think
little
that
bit.
gets to we're now in a like generation and time where everybody's more commonly like growing up with that sort of like TV show and like that sort of stuff, and then just all the remakes too. Everybody's wanting to like, or it's getting to a point where everybody's like, yeah, I love these things. I'm growing up and I want to be able to also make something for that. So I'm going to remake Harry Potter again for like the fifth time, or like, you know,
Right. Yeah. And like those are great things, but like what's the next thing is what everybody's waiting for. But at the same time, almost no one's willing to take the chance to actually find what
hmm
the next thing's going to be. So it's just remake after remake after remake, or this very similar plots over and over again. Because oh well, this one made money, so it's going to make money again.
yeah,
Doesn't matter
that's
if it
true,
makes a
and
little less.
that's like sort of the problem that like you know manga and anime has run into as well. Like now studios are just like, yeah, your story's good and all, but use these tropes and do these things because these sell really well, and like these catch people attention, or like don't do anything like too out of the box because it won't sell, and
Right.
uh, just stuff like that. So they're like. editors and studios get more into like the creator space and don't let them have as much free reign as they want, especially like new creators and stuff. It's like, yeah, we're not gonna let you do what you want to do because we don't believe that what you make is going to be good enough. So just, write this and get popular enough. Then once you get popular enough, whatever you write's gonna sell anyways, even if it's good or bad. So, you know,
Yeah. I I don't know, man. There's so many of my favorite things that have been kind of ruined. There's so many of my favorite things that I'm glad that they left, regardless of that. Like I think you always want to see your favorite characters maybe one more time, or see them again, or have them do something again. And I get where that comes from. You know what I mean? Like I could feel that, at least for, like, let's say like Firefly, right? Like, man, I'd love there to be like an animated version of that show, which is easily doable, right? Or like, just but other there's a billion different like options that they have still for that show if they
mhm.
wanted to. But at the same time, man, is it even going to be reminiscent of what the show is supposed to be? You know what I mean? Like, because they're talking about Disney was talking about doing a reboot of it, and I was like, oh, that would be pretty cool. But they're also going to make it more like themed towards kids and stuff like that, and like try to get a new generation on board with it first. It's like
Yeah,
that
that's
show has such a huge like adult following, and especially now, like, right, like real kind of older folks like me, or like I'm like kind of on the younger end of like
yeah.
where that
I was gonna
is.
say, yeah, you'd probably be like the youngest one because you were like 5 when that show came out.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I remember watching it the days it came out as a kid. Like I didn't watch like Pokemon or something. Like I had to watch what my dad was watching. You know what I mean? Like we only had one TV or whatever. But like that was kind of my jam, man. I love sci-fi stuff. Like it wasn't even a bad thing for me. So whenever we got that show, I was like, heck yeah. And then I remember the day it got canceled. I remember all that stuff. I was like, God, man, that sucks. Because we're expecting it. You know what I mean? You just like sit there and
Mhm.
expect that those things to come back, and they just never do. So I get like wanting it, but at the same time, it's also terrifying to see like, oh, okay, cool. So they're gonna, like remake Star Wars. Okay, that could be really cool. And then
Yeah, can we just get,
sometimes,
like, Fallen
sometimes
Order to
it's
be, like, an actual movie? Like, you just do, like, an animated movie and just take the cutscenes and stuff from the game, just work with that. Like, I
dude, Survivor's about to come out soon. I'm so stoked. I'm so stoked. That's the next like Jedi, Fallen Order. It's a Fallen Order sequel. Like,
yeah.
ooh.
Yep, yep.
But like that one, that like the way they did that, you're like fighting for this one thing, you finally get it, and then it was like pretty much, we're not gonna use it, and it's the only time that that's ever happened that I'm like, oh, that felt good, that felt right.
Yeah, where it's like, it didn't feel like a waste of the journey, even though, like, the entire thing we were on this journey for, it just kinda, like,
And
throw it
just
away. Toss it
throw it
aside.
away.
It was like, yeah. Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
we shouldn't have, like, do this. Yeah.
this is the only time I've ever seen like a movie or a video game or anything do that to me. That I'm like, man, they're gonna do that. Oh, yeah, that's the right thing to do. But I'm so sad,
I
so
don't
so
know,
sad.
like,
Like so sad to see it. Like I knew it was gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna happen. You're like,
it wasn't necessarily, like, a thing like the character did, like, throwing away a thing at the end of their journey, but, like, Avatar: The Last Airbender does something very similar where it, like, teases this like huge thing at like the end of like the show, and all the other avatars like the past lives are like, nah, no, he's too far gone. You're gonna have to kill that guy and blah blah blah. And then Aang's just like, no, I'm like the avatar. I'm an airbender. I'm a monk, so I was raised to not do that. And he does things his way, and he doesn't kill the Fire Lord. He takes his bending away, but you know,
right. I mean, like
uh,
Aang's
uh,
sick character. Holy
yeah,
cow.
no, like, that entire show is just
The
fucking
entire show is sick. Like I think I've watched it all the way. I've read the actual. That's only like one of the only books. Like I don't read a lot of books, but like that's one of the books that I read when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like I was like, yeah, I'll read this. I read the books and watched the series like as an adult, as a
mm,
kid. It's just so good.
yeah, that was a show that my like parents were like excited to watch too. Like me and my parents watched that like every new episode together. Like they love that show.
Yeah,
like
it's such a good
so
show.
it's so great. And like I think like man, the episode where like they finally like kind of reunite with like Appa or like get close to reuniting with Appa and it's like the big like Uncle Iroh episode too.
Uh,
And like I think my mom like actually cried during that episode. Like
dude,
the like Leaves on the Wind, like, song episode.
yeah, 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 yeah. He is
Yeah.
so like that character is so well put together. Holy cow! Like, and he was a bad
Uh,
guy too, which is crazy. And then I actually saw like a clip of it recently where he's talking to his nephew,
mhm.
and he's like, his nephew like did something. I can't remember what exactly he does, right? Like I can't remember. It's been a while.
Yeah, like, what
But he
Zuko
like
did.
he does something bad or whatever, like something to disappoint his uncle in his eyes. And he comes
Yeah.
back and he's like, "I'm so sorry I disappointed you. I know
Yeah.
you're literally more of a father to me than blah blah blah, right? Like you're the
Yeah,
best
yeah,
thing
yeah.
in my life." And he's like, "I wasn't disappointed. I just thought you lost your way." And like that was like the whole thing. Like that's what Iroh
Yeah,
says. I'm like, "Oh my god!"
yeah,
I was like I almost cried right in that moment. Like
it's
just
'cause
rewatching it.
Zuko is, like, so used to just, like, being punished for, like, messing up, and then you realize, like, he did something that he thought, like, Uncle Iroh wouldn't be, like, proud of or, like, would, like, hate him for. So he's like, "If I go, he's gonna be mad at me. He's gonna, like" stuff like that, and he just says that, and it's like, "Oh, alright, cool."
Yeah.
Uh,
Cool, bro.
yeah.
And then
Yeah, 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 it's like,
you're
"Oh"
like, "Oh, that's cool, bro." And then you start crying like a little baby, dude. Like Iroh
yeah.
makes me want to cry, dude, all the time.
Yeah, he does. Everything about that character is just fantastic.
Yeah.
And is
What
there a way to, like, switch hands?
switch hands? What do you
Yeah,
mean? Does
cause
your hand get worn out?
no, no, I mean, like, make it to where he, like, is holding it in his left hand and, like, aiming with his right instead,
I don't
because
think so.
I can't get this angle. I can't get this specific angle with it in this hand. Like, I can't squeeze it past because it's something blocking the way, and if I go over more, I'm going to fall off these monkey bars.
I don't think there's a way to switch hands. As
No, but
far as
that
I
entire like, that show is great. All the characters are great, like, done super fucking fantastic, and
I don't
yeah,
think you really even answered like directly what you think makes a good character. We just kind of talked in general,
that
which is fine.
that that
But like,
that's because there's too many things that make a good character, and there's so many things that, like, can make a bad character, and they're not all mutually exclusive either. It's really something hard to answer. It's kind of like emotions or feelings. It's like, yeah, it's a bad character because you feel a certain way whenever you watch them, or like you enjoy watching them, or yeah, just stuff like that, or like you feel yourself like actually being like invested in the character without realizing it. There's just like this moment where it hits you, you're like, oh, I actually care for and like want to see this character, succeed or do the thing right or become a better person, even if they're like relatively a kind of shitty person.
I just we watched Joker recently, right? And I keep thinking of that, man. I'm like, how do I capture that essence in my like NPCs or in my characters that I'm like trying to portray? Like, how do you capture that like actually a terrible guy, but in such a like believable, relatable way, right? Like he's just it's so you just feel it. You know what I mean? Like you're
See,
almost
see,
at the end of the movie, you're almost like about to do what he does in the show, right? Like in the movie, like you're like wow.
are
I went
you?
through all of that. You know what I mean? Like you believe it. You know what I mean? It's so believable. His like wild actions is incredibly like like you know what I mean. He's just been so ostracized from society that he makes these crazy decisions and does terrible things. Like you feel bad for him though. I feel like
I don't
at
know,
least
man.
I
I
do.
had friends growing up my whole life, so yeah, I feel bad for him. I don't find like him exactly like relatable, honestly, but
No.
I like that movie a lot for its cinematography. I think like the cinematography and shots in that movie are fucking amazing. Uh, and there's like slight Easter eggs all throughout that movie about like other characters from the Batman comics as well,
Hmm.
which I really enjoyed. I think it's uh, neat seeing like Bruce's dad and the fact that he's actually kind of an asshole, like honestly, uh, and that he really only like loved his family and then cared about like saving face for the most part. And like he was nice to like his friends and people that were close to him, sure, but like besides that, he was still kind of like a rich
I mean,
douche.
to be fair,
uh,
like look at the situations
yeah, the
that
situations I
that
always find
he's
him in,
put
like
in.
he's like
Yeah.
touching Bruce's face like a weirdo, and like and then
Yeah.
choking
No.
Alfred, and then he like shows up to him in the bathroom, and he's like, "You're my dad." And he's like, "Dude, I don't even know you," and it's like, "Yeah, yeah, you do. You know my mom." And it's like, "Oh, that's your mom? Oh, she was crazy." And he's like, "Don't say that." And he's like, "Oh, well, dude, all right, I need to get out of here." And he's like, "No, you're my dad." It's like, "No, I'm not."
Leave me alone. Yeah. Like I think that part of it. It's not like he's an asshole. I don't think Bruce's dad's an
Yeah,
asshole or anything. It's just
like
more
I
like
said, the
careless.
cinematography and stuff in that movie is shot really well. Where it's like it frames him like an asshole because you're seeing it a lot from like you know, uh,
The joke, like yeah, the
yeah,
Joker's
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
I wanted to say like the name that he uses in the show, Arthur. You see it from
Arthur.
Arthur's perspective,
Yeah.
uh, and you like understand it from Arthur's perspective, and like the movie does a really good job of a lot of that. Like the cinematography helps that movie like a ton, like a ton. Uh,
Probably a lot of that do you think it's like on the actual person on the video camera, or do you think it's like the director exactly specifically saying like this is the thing, or do you think they just put enough cameras down that there was so many options and they then just thought about what they wanted to convey?
what
You know what I mean?
with the
Like,
with a slow movie like that, I think they try to use less amount of cameras because you're not doing a lot of quick cuts or anything like that because it's not really an action movie. You don't really you have like the basic like 3 or 4 cameras, I think. Uh, and a lot of it is just like, you know, keeping Arthur the center of the camera like most of the time because he is what the movie is about. All the drama, all the story is based around him. So trying to keep him center light the whole time and keeping everything relatively from his perspective, and then it's the directors and editors and stuff like that afterwards. So it's a huge combination of everybody's involvement. Uh, because
I
that's what
wonder what it's like to be like a cameraman on like a movie set or something. Like, how much control over like that stuff do you actually get, or you know what I mean? Like, is it just like somebody's like telling you, or like I'm sure they listen to those people as they're operating the cameras and stuff, and I'm sure they know a lot about where they need to be and probably don't really even have to communicate it. They're just like, yeah, I'm gonna set
yeah,
up here, and like that's probably all that's gonna happen. Because I'm sure there's like just a lot of people that just have been in the business for a long time from their perspective. But
yeah. I wonder like for a camera person like how long you actually have to be in the like business because I like most of the time you see like a camera person in like movies and shows when like it's like a fake set and stuff. And
mhm.
all the camera people look young, like they're in college, like they're interns, not like not like they've studied or worked hard to get to that position.
I mean,
Which, like, I'm sure they have, but, like, I mean, they're not, like, veterans in the, like, filming business.
yeah, maybe
Uh,
the initial guy behind the camera isn't. Like he's like like that's actually like the lower part of the camera guy's job, and then the next part is like the guy that's actually setting them up like setting the cameras up for what lens to use and things like that, like those types of shots, maybe. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But it's also a
and, like,
director's thing. Like that's a lot of director stuff, like where the cameras are, why they're
the
there.
the yeah, the director has to be, like, pretty much center of all the cameras, so he can kinda see them, see where they're all facing, he knows where they're all facing, stuff like that, and he's looking, like, dead on at the scene, so, he can tell if it's a good shot or not, and then he has so many different angles to choose from when he goes back through and looks at all of them. That's why they have like several cameras.
Right.
Most of the time for like action scenes and stuff like that, and like some stories, and like even like regular stories, there's a lot of like storyboarding and like yeah, we want this angle, so we're gonna try to do that. They just have like some other camera set up just in case like that angle doesn't work, that camera failed, but like they reshoot and stuff like that a lot. In action movies, there's not always a ton of chances to do reshoots. Stuntmen get hurt. You run out of budget for all the pyro like technics and stuff. You can only blow something up so many times, right? So
Yeah, especially like, like working with budget, I feel like is probably the most like sketchy, or not like sketchy, but like the probably the most like worrisome part for a director on an action film, right? It's like
Mhm.
there's not a lot of, you're not thinking too. I mean, you are thinking a little bit about like, okay, is the plot being like maintained here, or are we doing it service by having this? But really, like a lot of action films just feel like they, especially now, have just action to be action films, right? Like there's some unnecessary violence a lot of the time in those
Yeah,
films.
and I've never super been a fan of action films to begin with. uh, but I mean,
However,
yeah,
though, like
I'm trying to think of like an action
John
film that I
John Wick,
super into.
The Matrix, those
I
are the big
haven't, I
ones
haven't,
for me.
I haven't seen any of the John Wicks. I watched Wanted. I haven't seen The Matrix.
Wanted? What does Wanted have to do with The Matrix?
I don't
Yucko.
know. Got does slow mo.
The slow
It
mo.
it it did it tried to copy The Matrix. I don't know.
I think why The Matrix is good is
Oh,
I
I've
don't know.
seen Fight Club, which like I don't know. Fight Club gives off like Joker feels. So
Yeah, I wouldn't say Fight Club is like an action film though, really. Like I'm sure people are saying that, like people would say that it is, but I don't think it is. Like
like
it
I'm trying
feels
to
really
think.
dramatic
Like
to be an action film.
I just don't like a lot of like action movie stars. Like as like no, I don't like them as people. I just mean I don't enjoy their characters because they just play the same character and everything. So it's just like, oh, cool. Jason Statham is playing Jason Statham again in this Jason Statham action movie. There's only been like a few times where they like break those roles, and that's when they're the side characters as like in like a comedy bit in like a like parody action movie or like a goofier action movie where it's like a character who isn't really an action hero just flubbing their way through this experience, and then like the actual badass shows up for a couple scenes and says a goofy thing, then like leaves.
Yeah, I think
I'm
that
like, yeah, okay, yeah,
happens.
that's good.
There's one with like Jason Statham or something. You know who does really well, and
Hmm.
I think we both like this movie is Brad Pitt, right?
Yeah, Brad
Like
Pitt. I love
as an
Bullet Train.
action,
That was the
right?
last action movie.
That's
Bullet Train is actually one of my favorite movies, and like that movie rules. Like
that's an action
that
movie,
is a good
yeah.
movie. Yeah,
But look at his character that he plays there versus look at like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, right? Like those characters are
yeah.
vastly different, and that makes it really fun, I think, right? Like
Hmm.
seeing that generally typecast actor in a not typecast position. That's really
You
nice.
know what? A character with a sense of humor that makes a good protagonist. Like that does it because if they have a sense of humor, they're immediately relatable, no matter what any of their other traits are.
Right. And I mean,
Like
but also humor is subjective. So maybe like some people don't like Deadpool. I don't know who, but some people might not like Deadpool because his sense of humor isn't for them
there's
or
plenty of
something,
people
right?
who don't. Yeah, there's plenty of people who don't like Deadpool, and like
I actually don't know anyone personally that doesn't like
uh
Deadpool.
Uh, personally, I'm not sure I do either. But I've definitely had like creators like YouTubers I've watched and stuff, or like other people mention that they don't like Deadpool. And it's like yeah, and they bring up like just like it's not like I hate it. It's just like not my cup of tea. I'm like yeah, that's fair. It's not gonna be everybody's cup of tea. Uh,
I don't think a
Deadpool is
character like that should be everyone's cup of tea, and I think
yeah,
that's what
no,
makes him good. That's what makes him
yeah,
good to me. It's like that. It's not really a sensitive character or one that
and
cares too much about people.
and Deadpool is a character that does so much better in like movies and like cartoons or like animated. Because I've mentioned before, like I've tried reading his comics before, and like holy shit, his comics are just
I think
his character doesn't hit as well in a comic book. uh,
I've not read a lot of his comic books, so I
uh,
can't speak too much on it. But I will say, like a TV show would be very cool. Like I think an X-Men TV show would be very cool. Just
he's
things
shown
like
up in I wanna say like one or two of like the Spider-Man animated series, and then he was in it's like I don't remember exactly the name, but it was a Marvel like anime series about uh you know, it's like Disc something, and he shows up in that as well. And he shows up in like a couple other like animated series, but he does really well in like the crossover comics, but it's mainly like his main series comics just aren't
they don't slap for you,
interest.
huh?
Yeah, they don't slap. It's just his they don't do as well for his character. uh and I think it's just like trying to like read the jokes or like that sense of humor is different than like watching it or seeing it be like animated.
Right.
Uh because the sense of humor is very much like close enough to like slapstick and stuff like that, or like bouncing off, and like it requires like good punchlines and like acting and stuff. So seeing it in like comic form and stuff, it doesn't hit as well. And then also a lot of his earlier comics just have a very specific audience that it's aiming towards, and if you're not a part of that audience, it you know
I think too
isn't
is
good.
the era, right? Like I
Yeah,
mean, like the era of when that comic maybe came out might be a factor in that. Like, there's definitely some placating to different people that can happen just because of different times or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so it's tough to say why exactly. I think a character would like fail like that. Like, because Deadpool as a character is really cool. Same like Moon Knight, right? Like, I
yeah,
think
Moon Knight's cool. I read all of his early stuff. I need to like read his new stuff, but
so. I
I
like.
read
Oh, go ahead.
no, no. I was just gonna mention that, like, yeah, I read like all of Moon Knight's early stuff, like his like beginning comic and stuff like that. Uh, and I was gonna finish like trying to read like all of Moon Knight stuff because there's a lot, but like not as much as like other superheroes because like he's a huge hero, so it'd be very easy to like read all of it. That was the goal because I read like most of Spider-Man stuff, and it made me go blind. So,
Yeah,
uh,
you're kind of a maniac when it comes to reading though.
yeah, uh, yeah.
You really don't slow down.
No, I try to like if I start a book, I'll try to finish it that day. It only takes like 4 to 6 hours. As long as it's like a reasonable novel. Like most like fantasy series, they only they're not super long unless you go for like the big ones like Dune or something. And like I don't know if I could ever start Dune because I'd want to finish it, and there's like 19 books or some shit like that, and they're all like 500 pages long, if not more. And I'm like, maybe I don't touch those.
Yeah, I was gonna say something, but now I've lost it.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching the video today. Before I let you go, I wanted to take a moment and mention that we have been working on a game called Infinite Ages. It's a tabletop role-playing game. The current rule book is called Infinite Ages Genesis, and it is out on our website at www.infiniteages.com. You can find it on the YouTube channel in the link, or you can just type it into your browser. We really appreciate everyone's support so far. If you haven't seen any like gameplay footage of it, we do have, I believe, 4 episodes out this Saturday. So you guys should be able to check that out here on the YouTube channel. The video will pop up here or here, I can't remember. And have a good one.